Hi everyone, Fiona Smart here from Cafe Lab. Today I'm going to finalise the third part of the three-part series to get you more sales in your cafe. And the focus today is going to be around cost of goods and savings. So in part one, we focused internally on growing sales by building a sales culture with your team. In part two, I asked you to think outside of the box and create new revenue streams that was a focus around external influences, local area marketing opportunities to grow sales. And ultimately, we've got three ways to improve your profitability. You can grow sales, you can ensure that your costs are correct, and you can make savings. So this part three is about ensuring that your costs are working within the formula for profitability and making sure that you're measuring and minimizing wastage. So many people are getting into this industry thinking it's an easy way to make money, and it's so hard to turn a profit. It is really tight. How tight? Well, the formula that I worked on when I had my businesses, and I'm sure many of us are under the delusion that it was 30% cost of goods, 30% wages, 30% fixed costs, and 10% profit. The reality is that cafes are working on a profit margin of between 4 and 7% on average. And this is an industry stat. This is not something that I've made up. So the pressure's coming from market saturation, and that's the reality of the space that you're working in. So what can you do? Firstly, you need to cost your menu at an average of 20 to 25%, factoring in GST into the costing process. There's plenty of programs out there, you just need to Google it. The biggest issue or blockage will be you putting your time down and doing it. And it can be a lengthy process, especially for the first time, but you have to ensure your food costs are falling within the 20 to 25% bracket, and that is including your coffee, your beverages, packaging for takeaway items, all of it. Now, I know it's hard to put your prices up, and I get that, but I was personally really empowered by working with costing formulas because it just becomes obvious to you that you have to price your items correctly, because otherwise you're going to go out of business. So just do it, cost your menu, drinks and all, 20 to 25%. And from there, when you're looking at your overall percentages, it's about juggling within that 100% to squeeze the highest profit margin where you can. So some tips. The loss leader. So think of Macca's and soft serve and fries. They're cheap, they get you in, and they usually mean that you're going to spend more money. So you might have a loss leader that is a muffin, or it could be your El Cheapo bacon and egg sandwich, whatever it is. Your loss leader is integrated into your pricing, your overall menu pricing, and it's just a way of getting people in the door. And then it's down to the sales team to facilitate those bigger sales, the bundle deal, and also to give that great customer experience so that the customer comes back, right? So costing your menu is nothing if your chefs or your cooks don't know how much ham to put on the ham sandwich. Maybe they're just winging it with making up prices for things, for specials. And if this is happening, and it probably is, you have to stop it. You need to give your team systems and parameters to work within, or it will creep out. And when was the last time you or your chef checked in with your suppliers to make sure your prices haven't risen incredibly or that you're getting the best deal? There are so many suppliers out there. Make them work for you. Make them work for your business. Right? So assuming you've costed your menu, you've reviewed your portioning, you've got great prices from your suppliers, and you've put it into your calendar to remember to update your costings quarterly, the next biggest impact is obviously wages. So efficient rostering, having an efficient team to keep wages to around that 35% mark. I mean, I have to be honest, I don't know many businesses that are getting under 30% wage costs anymore. Most are sitting between 35 and 45%. I think a realistic goal is 35%, but it will creep out to 40% at times. That's why it's really vital that your cost of goods are in line and that you're constantly reviewing them. So minimizing your wage bill involves training your team around efficiency, really clever rostering, choosing the right fit for the business in terms of your employment or wage structures, and you're best probably choosing a combination of full, part-time, casual, whatever it is, whatever you need to run the business profitably. so that you can send people home when it's quiet or cancel shifts as is required and also as is legal. Apps like Deputy are excellent. They help you work out your anticipated sales budget versus wages for the week. And you just also need to pay serious attention to those downtimes and the changes in productivity, and balance that with how you're adjusting your roster. It's often the case that after a rushy period, all the team just drop the ball and have a rest. I get that we're human, but my philosophy is I'm paying you the same rate for your entire shift from when you walk in the door to when you finish. So you just need to always be working hard. So you should know your average weekly turnover. You should know your average wage costs. You should know how many staff hours that you've got to budget with, especially if you're using Deputy. You just need to stick to it. And you also need to be thinking outside of the box. Maybe you get a student in a bit cheaper for the weekends. Maybe you as the owner works on the weekends. Maybe you can do the job of two and you work only those really busy periods so that you can cover it. If you're paying penalty rates for staff, you may want to create a separate weekend menu that's like an adaptation of your weekday menu. You can change it up a bit, cost it differently. It's just a way of absorbing the wages, just because of the weekend costs. Every 15-minute increment that you can save in wages is worth it. So my last point is about waste minimization. So what gets measured gets monitored. I'm not sure where that quote comes from, but geez, I'm saying it a lot. It's so true. It's like the sales targets. If you don't know what the goal is, you're not going to achieve it. So as an example, in one of my cafes, we had an issue with ground coffee wastage. And I knew it because I was watching the baristas just dump, hundreds of grams of coffee into the bin, like grinds that didn't land in the basket. So it wasn't a headhunt. We just started measuring the wastage. We were a high volume cafe. We were doing over 110 kilos, and our daily wastage was a minimum of a kilo per day. And after measuring it, we looked at our practices. Therefore, there were some efficiencies in there. We got that wastage down to under 400 grams per day. There's wastage even with electronic grinders, milk waste with leftover milkshakes or juices, chips, all of these little things. They're your money. You need to get it under control. If you haven't already, implement wastage records and gather that data and just make the adjustments that you need and the practices that will avoid that loss. Same goes with food. Food wastage. Refresh your kitchen team or get the mindset right. First in, first out practices. Make sure they're using their brains and they've got the authority to change the specials and get rid of stock that's going out of date. Ultimately, you want them to weigh and record their wastage. You need to analyze together why it's happening so you can correct it, and then set some targets that hold them accountable and you accountable to maintaining those targets. So 3 points. Cost your menu, all of it, drinks, GST, packaging, sides. Create portion guides. 2, look at your wages. Be creative. Put the pressure on yourself and your team to improve efficiencies. And lastly, measure and correct your wastage issues. So hopefully you've got lots out of this 3-part series. I'd love your feedback if you have any, or if you have any questions. I'm Fiona Smart. I'm a consultant specializing in the business development of cafes. If you need help to grow your sales, improve your customer experience, improve your profitability, your product, I can actually help. Thank you so much for watching. I will be back next week with my next video, product consistency.